Good evening, everybody. How are you all doing? I see folks are typing in the chat. What's up, Frank Britton? Just continue that chat going. We're gonna leave it open for today. We're so excited that you guys are here. Thank you for spending your Thursday with us, and thank you for our fantastic panelists as well. I have a couple of housekeeping things that I need to go over, and then we're going to jump right into the conversation so we can get all of this good knowledge. I am Sharrell D. Luckett. I am the director of the Helen Weinberger Center for Drama and Playwriting at the University of Cincinnati. I am also, where am I? Yep, also an associate professor of drama and performance studies in the English department. And I am the executive founding director of the Black Acting Method Studio, which is co-sponsoring this event with the Weinberger. I also have to thank the Taft Research Center, the Mercantile Library, and everybody in the English department at the University of Cincinnati for helping to put this event on. Okay, so we are here for this. Yes, it is in my hands. This book, Tarell Alvin McCraney, it's a beautiful, beautiful cover. What I want you to know about Tarell Alvin McCraney, the book, it is on sale right now on Northwestern site for $34.95, but we have a special code for you. It's just McCraney, and that will get you 30% off today and tomorrow, and I think the rest of the week, okay? So if you're interested in this book, we did that for you all, 30% off. A little bit more about myself. I'm the co-editor of Tarell Alvin McCraney, Theater Performance and Collaboration. I am also the lead editor of Black Acting Methods Critical Approaches. I'm the author of Young, Gifted, in Fact and Trans Weight, and also the editor of African American Arts, Activism and Aesthetics and Futurity. My book that's coming out is called The Luckett Paradigm, and that should be out pretty soon. That talks about all of that work with Black acting methods. Everybody on here, we got Instagrams. It's literally our names. All right. So just do at Tina Landau, at Phylicia Rashad, at Alana Arenas, at Black Acting Methods, at SD Luckett, and Isaiah you can catch on Facebook, right? Isaiah Wooden is on Facebook. I think that's all I have to say for right now. So I am going to pass the mic to Isaiah to introduce himself.
Thank you so much, Sharrell, and hi, friends. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I am so thrilled to be here, to be in conversation with these amazing artists, to talk about an artist who we all love so dearly and whose work has transformed our lives. My name is Isaiah Matthew Wooden. I'm a director, dramaturg, critic, and assistant professor of theater arts at Brandeis University. I'm also a scholar of contemporary African-American art, drama, and performance, and I've published more than, 24 essays and articles on that topic in both scholarly and popular venues. I'm currently at work on a book that explores the interplay of race and time in contemporary Black expressive culture, and had the great pleasure of collaborating with Sharrell and David Roman, our other co-conspirator, on Tarell Alvin McCraney, Theater, Performance, and Collaboration. And as a way to sort of get us started, I want to talk a little bit about how the book came to be and why, when we were imagining a celebratory symposium, we thought it was really important to have a session dedicated to acting and directing. So the book has a sort of interesting origin story in that there are multiple origin stories. And if you ask Sharrell, David, and I how it all began, we would probably offer you different answers, slightly different answers. But we do sort of trace its origins back to a conference in Montreal in 2015. At the time, Sharrell and I had both directed productions of In the Red and Brown Water at our respective universities. And Tarell so graciously came and spent time with our students. And David had written an essay about the premiere productions of Head of Passes at Steppenwolf and Choir Boy at the Manhattan Theater Club. And so we gathered, we kikied, we had a great time talking about Tarell's work. And part of what we discovered in that conversation is that we wanted to create a space for more people to be able to engage with this work. And so began this journey. And what I think was really, really important to us, especially to me and Sharrell, because we approach the work as both scholars and teachers, but also as practitioners, was that we wanted to ensure that there was space in the book for Tarell's collaborators to be able to speak about the profound work that they've been able to do together. And so we sent out a call to folks like Tina and Alana, and they responded, and they are in the book, and they offer such rich and wonderful insights about the process of bringing Tarell's work to life, both for the stage and for the screen. And so we are hoping that tonight we can delve a little bit deeper into those kinds of conversations. What does it mean to work on this work? What are some of the opportunities it presents? Some of the challenges, right? And so that's where we are going to go tonight in our conversation. And again, I just want to say thank you to all of you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Dr. Isaiah Wooden. All righty, now we've told who we are. We are going to introduce our esteemed panelists. Okay. Alana Arenas can currently be seen as Gloria in the Peabody Award nominated television series David Makes Man, which is phenomenal. An ensemble member of the internationally famous Steppenwolf Theater Company, Alana won the prestigious Lucille Lortel Award for Best Supporting Actress in Head of Passes, written by Tarell Alvin McCraney, and directed by Tina Landau. Alana Arenas also won the 2016 Clarence Derwin Award for Most Promising Actress on the New York Metropolitan Scene from Actors Equity Association. And something I want to throw in there that I think is really cool is that Alana originated the role of Pecola Breedlove in The Bluest Eye, correct? That is so, that is so cool. Thank you for that wonderful, wonderful body of work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here. Can't wait.
Wonderful. So I have the great pleasure of introducing Tina Landau. Tina Landau is a writer, director, and teacher whose work includes directing and conceiving the SpongeBob musical on Broadway, which received multiple Tony nominations, Tarell Alvin McCraney's Ms. Black at Steppenwolf, Head of Passes at the Public, Wig Out at the Vineyard Theater, In the Red and Brown Water at the Public, Bill Irwin and David Shiner's Old Hats, and Chuck Mead's Big Love and Iphigenia 2.0, all at Signature Theater, Paula Vogel's A Civil War Christmas at New York Theater Workshop, and her musical Floyd Collins at Playwrights Horizon. On Broadway, Tina also directed Tracy Lett's Superior Donuts and the revival of Bells Are Ringing. At Steppenwolf Theater Company, where she is an ensemble member, her directing credits include The Wheel, Hot L Baltimore, The Brother-Sister Plays, The Tempest, The Time of Your Life, The Diary of Anne Frank, The Cherry Orchard, The Ballad of Little Joe, Berlin Circle, and her own play Space, which also ran at the Mark Taper Forum and the Public Theater. Regional credits include Beauty at La Jolla Playhouse, Antony and Cleopatra at Hartford Stage, and A Midsummer Night's Dream at the McCarter Theater and Paper Mill Playhouse. Tina is the co-author of the Viewpoints book with Anne Bogart and has taught regularly at such schools as Yale, Columbia, Harvard, and Northwestern. Let's give a round of applause and welcome to Tina Landau.
Hi, everybody. So happy to be here. And as you were reading that list of my Steppenwolf productions, I was like, oh, Alana was in like all of them. Okay, continue.
Very cool. And we're going to introduce Miss Phylicia Rashad. An accomplished actress and stage director, became a household name when she portrayed Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show, a character whose enduring appeal has earned numerous awards and honors for over 2 decades. Her film and television credits include A Fall from Grace, Creed and Creed 2, For Colored Girls, This Is Us, in which she received an Emmy nomination, and also David Makes Man and Empire. Rashad will be featured in the upcoming films Soul, Jingle Jangle, and Black Box. Miss Phylicia Rashad is inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame. That happened in 2016. She also received the Tony and Drama Desk Awards for her performance as Lena Younger in A Raisin in the Sun, the Lucille Lortel Award for her performance as Sheila in Head of Passes, and a Tony nomination for her portrayal of Aunt Esther in August Wilson's Gem of the Ocean. Woo! Miss Rashad has directed plays from August Wilson, Gem of the Ocean, Fences, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Joe Turner's Come and Gone, Stephen Adley Gurgis's Our Lady of 121st Street, and Paul Oakley Stovall's Immediate Family at prestigious regional and off-Broadway theaters. Miss Rashad will direct a revival of Charles Randolph Wright's Blue in New York in 2021. Because we will be back in 2021. We're gonna claim it, everybody, all right? We need this thing to pass, okay? And so everybody presenting Miss Phylicia Rashad.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
So we thought we would open up the conversation by having each of you talk a little bit about how you met or began collaborating with Tarell. And what were some of your initial thoughts, responses to the work? And that's open to everybody.
I'll start. Shall I? Okay. How we met, right? So it was 2004, and I was about to do a production at Steppenwolf called Theatrical Essays. And I had opened auditions looking for performers who were going to create material with me and not just kind of come and interpret a previously written role. So I was looking for people who also were master chefs or did crafts on the side or worked in politics, and Tarell came into audition. He had recently graduated from DePaul. He was an actor at the time, and his audition for me consisted of a dance piece he did. I could be remembering this wrong, but I think maybe he wasn't wearing a shirt. I just remember thinking, oh, Alvin Ailey in the room, and a piece he had written. So I cast him, I think, on the spot. And we proceeded to work together on that show, in which he collaborated and made dances and wrote some things. And at the end of that time, he told me that he had decided to go off to Yale to be a playwright. And I wished him Godspeed and thought that was the end of it. And then 3 years later, when he was graduating, I got a note from him saying, did I want to direct his play in the Red and Brown Water at the Alliance Theater in Atlanta, which would be his first production out of school. And I remember thinking, oh, I guess he liked me okay. Because at that time, he was so he has this very odd combination of being completely transparent and completely opaque at different times. And at least to me. And so I was really touched that he thought of me to direct this. And I remember reading the first page. The first page of that play starts something like, the cast stands in a line downstage. They glow like deities in a pantheon. They hum a sweet, sad song like mist, or something like that. And really, it was 6 lines, and I was in whole hog. And I remember thinking, this is a play, this is a poem. This is a dance piece. This is a piece of music, which is very much what it turned out to be. So that was kind of the launch for me and Tarell. Anyone else? Alana's known him since they were 2, so maybe you should go next.
Okay, so not 2, but So I met Tarell. He has a very, very, very strong and vivid memory. There have been times in my life where Tarell has actually reminded me of things that have happened to me. His memory is very sharp. And I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. So I say all that to say that I would not be able to tell you the age. Tarell might be able to, but we were definitely adolescents. And we were going to maybe a summer program at what was called the African American Cultural Heritage, something in that vicinity. It was basically a community center, community arts center. And I'm born and raised from Miami, and so is Tarell. So we met at that cultural program, and our lives have been intertwined ever since. From there, we ended up being a part of another sort of community arts program called Voices United, which took teens in the arts, and they, self-devised a piece. We ended up going to the same performing arts high school. We ended up going to the same college, DePaul University in Chicago. So like I said, our lives have been intertwined for a very long time. So I will just tell you that at some point, I began to see that Tarell had a different work ethic, different level of work ethic, different level of artistry that it's just not my ministry. It's not my blessing, okay? So when we were in college, we would be like hanging out, right? In our friends' dorm room, we close friends. We hanging out in somebody's dorm room, and Tarell would be like, "Hey, can I read you guys this poem that I wrote?" And he would read it, and it would be amazing. And I would be thinking, that's what you do in your free time? Number one, we don't get any because it was a conservatory. So it was very time demanding. We don't get any free time. And you found time to write that. And when I get free time, I'm like going to the cafeteria. So it was remarkable, to say the least, but it was literally the first time I heard him read something that he wrote, just not even for an assignment. I was like, oh, okay, he's different. He has something else that I don't have. And then, I just also think about, there were days we had movement as a part of this conservatory training. I literally remember a day that Tarell was like, do you want to practice these Graham exercises with me? And we, I think I didn't come from the dance background. So I think I started to do one of the stretches with him, and it was not comfortable. So I was like, Tarell, why? And I was like, no, I think I'm gonna just do the classes, and I'm not doing extra stuff. So, and that makes me seem so lazy, but I'm serious. He has always been so seriously like above and beyond, So those are just some like college memories. I remember he directed this piece that I was a part of, but it was like a poem that he had written. And I was just, interestingly enough, I was a year ahead of Tarell in school, but I was always very like in awe in what he was doing with his education. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm next. So there's a young actor, Kyle Beltran, whom I had known since his middle school years, as he and my daughter, Condola Phylicia, were best friends in school. And I've been very invested in his progress as an actor since high school, convincing his father to indeed take him to Carnegie Mellon for an audition and to allow him to enter theater. And so a theatrical program, a conservatory program. And Kyle ends up cast in Head of Passes. And is, he's very excited about it. And I don't know much about the play. I just know that he's doing this play and he's going to Chicago and he's so very, very happy. And then all that happens. And one day I get a call from Kyle. He calls me Mama Rashad. And he said, Mama Rashad, we're going to do a reading of Head of Passes. And I just think that this role of Sheila, I think that you would really like it very much. Would you be open to just doing the rehearsals and the reading of this play? It's a reading for the public. And I said, okay, Kyle, yes, of course, have them send me the script. I'll be happy to do it. So they sent the script. And I'm trying to read this script. And it's unlike any script I've ever read. So it's not so easily read because the playwright, yes, he has his own intention. Yes, he has his own purpose. He's writing from a stream of consciousness that includes all the hmms, ooh, that people say when they speak or think, just in life. He's capturing the whole movement of thought and emotion that goes with it in the writing. And so I never seen a text like this. I love Shakespeare, but he didn't do this. August Wilson, I love, he didn't do this. But this is what Tarell, Alvin McCraney does. And I'm looking at this script saying, okay, all right. I'm just trying to read it. I'm just trying to get through it. So I just say, yes, I'm going to do the reading. I'm going to be happy to do the reading. So I show up to do the reading. And this is when I'm meeting Tina for the first time. Alana, you weren't there for this first reading. And this is when I meet Tarell. And he reminds me of one of those astute college professors from way back in the day. He has this bearing, it's very regal. And he's being opaque with me. Because we're just meeting. He's respectful in this way, And so when we get into this reading, all of a sudden, all the lights come on inside. I'm in the room with the other actors and I'm listening, and all of a sudden it's like, I begin to see what it is. But I really had to work to get the that he writes in there. And I marveled at that because they were correct. They weren't arbitrary. And each one had meaning. Each one meant something. And every utterance had a different meaning. And Tina had to help me find all those things. But that's how I met who I call Espiritu, Tarell Alvin McCraney.
Can I just chime in something, because I'll forget later? If anyone wants a really good example of the ums, oohs, uhs, there's a lot of uhs. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of uhs that are just period. Read Sheila's last monologue in Head of Passes. Because it's, I don't know, a 7, 8, 9, 10-page aria that is rife, rich, traffics in those pauses of thought and adjustments of thought. And it to this day amazes me that Ms. Rashad faithfully learned and nailed all of them. But that piece of writing is a really good example of what she's talking about.
Thank you. This what you guys are saying makes me think of the specificity that you were talking about, Miss Rashad. When I was getting to know Tarell, I remember I was watching a YouTube clip and someone in the audience, I believe it was a Black man, stood up and asked Tarell about his use of the N-word in Brother Size. And it was a moment where you kind of knew where this was going. They were curious why he used this word. But before you could go there, Tarell then tells the audience how many times the word is in the play. So he says something like 78. And everybody's like, what? He's 78. I used the N-word 78 times. And it was a wrap. Everything is intentional. And so that's something I point to with my students. And we're going to get to the next question, but I really like that you guys kind of track your journey, because we know a lot of students and young professionals are always interested in how people got intertwined and how did you work together. And what I'm really hearing is that a lot of things start very young. Your artistic tribe are the people that you will come up with. And if you are really dedicated to the craft, it will get you to kind of where you're supposed to go in the universe. So on the rehearsal, Tina, I have a specific question for you, because you talk about this in the book. You speak about how Tarell reads his plays aloud. And I just wanted to hear you talk about this a little bit more and how that has been helpful in your directing of his plays, because it is fascinating to me.
Sorry, unmuting. Yeah, that came originally out of necessity. It was the first show. It was Red and Brown at the Alliance, and it was just Tarell and I in a room. And I just knew that I couldn't hear it exactly and that it was music. And I asked him to read it for me. He not only read it, he got up, he moved around the room, he railed, he sobbed, he laughed, he embodied every aspect of that thing. And you know, what I found helpful about it and why I've offered it to the cast ever since then has nothing to do with a right or wrong way to say a line. I tried to tell my cast that, and recently found out on a Steppenwolf chat we had that some of them were like not having it. They were like, how can we listen to him and not think about how, but it's really meant, and I think been helpful in this way, rather than being prescriptive, to kind of offer a key to the universe of this playwright. Like all great playwrights, like you mentioned Shakespeare, I think of Chekhov, who I think in some odd way Tarell is like, which I could talk about more later if you want. There's keys, there's patterns, there's a groove, there's a zone that once you can access it, a lot of the hard work falls into place because you're in the universe. And, you know, in this case, I would say it's a combination of embracing the poetry of the language combined with a very naturalistic, organic approach, and how to tightrope those two things, which you have to do. And it has to do with a speed and a musicality at which the work is meant to be performed. And it has to do with these things we refer to as switches, which are like instantaneous changes of thought or beat or intention that I couldn't describe to people. You know, I could only point to it and say, as an example. And there's one other thing I want to say about reading the plays out loud, which is, you know, I always think as a director, and I know Tarell shares this with me, when we are meeting with a group of artists for the first time, actors in specific, and we are asking them to lay bare their souls, we kind of have to go first, or at least it helps to go first. There's something about, if I am willing to be open, if I am willing to take risks, to fail, to make a fool of myself, to get a little messy in my emotions, it kind of creates a permission in the room. And I think that Tarell reading these plays is a very kind of full of grace way of inviting others to follow in brave footsteps, and to also introduce the idea that Tarell is not going to be sitting behind a table writing notes on the text. He's almost living the piece with us as another performer, to the extent that in many rehearsals, if an actor, I don't know, was in a costume fitting or late or whatever, Tarell will get up and do the role. And I'm trying to think what it was. I think it was on Wig Out, where there's characters of these three fates, like a girl chorus. Well, of course, Tarell wanted to be one of the fates. And so we had many rehearsals where there were four fates. And Tarell was just with them doing the choreo and making stuff up. But to me, his reading the play out loud is a way of saying it's not words on the page. It's an inhabited, felt thing that I will take the brave leap first in offering. So that's kind of what it's about.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, seriously, recently, who was it? K. Todd Friedman at Steppenwolf revealed to me, unbeknownst to me, that all he did the whole time Tarell was reading was think, do I have to say it that way? Do I have to do it that way? I was like, Anyway.
Thank you. Did you want to say something as well, Ms. Rashad?
Oh, I was just going to say, I remember the day that Tarell read the text of Head of Passes in the rehearsal. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience because I never had the feeling that I had to mimic it or remember it as he said it. But it was like receiving a gift. You were receiving, I felt like I was receiving something on a very subtle level from hearing him read that text that would support, it would inform, and it would support me as we continue to work on the play. So Tina, I think it's a good idea.
Absolutely. And it reminds me of the ways that, the dropping of the partitions, this is, just my opinion. I feel like in theater, in some kind of ways, we've gotten really territorial about a lot of things, and it's really about ensemble. And so that's what it sounds like to me, like the playwright and the actors and the directors and tech crew too, production team, just merging and coming together to have an experience. Absolutely. Isaiah, take it away.
So the next question was for you, Ms. Rashad. And you have said that David Makes Man is unprecedented for television in various ways. Can you speak more on this and what Tarell's work requires of you as an actress? And perhaps, Alana, after that, you can sort of elaborate on something that you talked about in the book about how working on Tarell's plays allowed you to experience, as a Black woman from Carol City, that you were stage worthy, right? Worthy as the classics. So can you talk a little bit more about that? So the first question is to Ms. Rashad, just sort of talking about the experience of David Makes Man, why it's unprecedented, and then Alana really sort of talking about what Tarell's work has opened up for you as a Black woman from Carol City. Yeah.
Well, the first aspect of it, I think, in being unprecedented, has to do with the literature itself. His television is not known for its literature. And the scripts, let's just face it, they're not. But Tarell's scripts have literary value, okay? Then he is not interested in pathology, but he is presenting you with life in its realness, in its raw quality. He's presenting that to you And there's something about it that isn't bitter. He can present some harsh realities without being bitter about it and without making you feel bitter in witnessing it. He has such compassion and such understanding of every human being that he creates, that he writes. And it makes you care about everybody, whether it's the young man who's trying his best to live in two worlds and code switch at the beginning and the end of the day, or the young man who holds a very painful secret, who's coming from a very, let's say, economically stable, financially stable environment, or the man who's dealing drugs and appearing to be so tough and macho, and who really is like a wounded child inside. And it's not syrupy, it's just real. And then, oh, okay, that's one thing. Then the visuals. He writes the visual magic into the script. I'm telling you, that's unprecedented. You don't see that in these scripts. It just does not happen. It just does not happen. I'm sorry, I don't have a script in front of me right now, but Alana, you will remember these passages where David, if it wasn't David, it was Marissa, I think.
Yes. She had a whole scene where there was some insects that she had imagined in her room. I don't think we ultimately got to see that, but so many elaborate things that were written into the script of David Makes Man.
Right.
Yes. Well, you please finish, please.
No, I was just remembering the imagery of you in that scene where you're dressed all in white.
Yeah.
And he incorporates ritual. He brings ritual into it. That's just, you just don't see that on television.
Yeah. Yes, I interestingly enough, one of the things that I think is really beautiful about Tarell's work, and something that I miss from being a young person, the performing arts high school that we went to, it's called New World School of the Arts. We had our, a typical academic schedule from the beginning of the day till about 1 o'clock. And from 1 to 3, we worked on our particular art discipline. But what was wonderful about that experience was there was so much interaction. Everybody that I went to school with was an artist in a particular discipline. And then we would have assemblies where you would get to see your peer present from their discipline. And it would be like, wow, like I'm going to school with all these incredible artists. But at the same time, I felt like we were very intertwined. As an adult, it feels like my world is very discipline specific. And that is something that I really appreciate about Tarell's work, that it crosses discipline lines. Like it melds so many different forms of art expression. I have a deep appreciation for that. And it, as Miss Felicia said, it is literally written into the scripts. And that was for me, one of the things, literally to see David Makes Man, like to see the opening, when the show literally comes on. Like the first time I ever saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. So just really appreciating him and needing him. So to speak to the question that Isaiah asked me about what I said in the book about Tarell's work giving me giving me the feeling of value in my existence in an academic setting, on the stage of American theater. By the time we had gotten to DePaul, and it was a conservatory, the things that I learned didn't seem culturally specific to me. And it took me some time to articulate that for myself, to figure out that, oh, wow, I don't necessarily readily relate to these characters, but there's an expectation on me to relate to. It's called assimilation. Like, I don't know if I formed that thinking in my mind, but I felt that. I felt uncomfortable in dialect class when it was put upon me to learn Irish and you know, but nobody has to learn like a Nigerian accent. I was struggling with those things, and I didn't talk about it because at that time there just wasn't, I don't know, it was something that I sort of kind of silently decided I was going to work out through with myself. But as I became a professional and I encountered Tarell's work, I have a very, very interesting relationship to Tarell's work. He is somebody that I know very personally. And yet, if you take away that relationship, I am so grateful for him as an artist. I need him to exist in this world as an artist. Encountering, living inside of Tarell's work is the first time that I felt valued by my own craft. It was an invitation. It was something that made so much sense once it happened. Like, oh yeah, my stories are just as valuable as anybody else's story. But I never really had that experience as deeply as I had it with Tarell's work, because we literally come from the same neighborhood, literally come from, the same city. Whereas even with August, there's a little bit of a distance because it's not necessarily the same state. There's the universality of it. I'm a young person and I'm seeing myself and my community on stage. And this is something that I am now understanding as a parent. I have 2 little children. And what I've now realized is I literally wrote a letter to our principal saying representation matters. And I'm going to tell you why it matters. I can at home all day tell my children that they're beautiful, that they're smart, that they're brilliant, that they're inventive. But if they go out into the world and it's not affirmed, then it sounds like I'm just making up stuff. So if you on the public stage tell me that Black stories and experiences matter, but that you don't affirm that programming, you don't affirm that in what you value as worthy to teach, there's a gap and people don't really believe you. And so people don't really see themselves actualized in their disciplines. And that's a misstep in being able to really practice fully as an artist. So I didn't know how much I needed Tarell's work until it came.
I just wanted to jump in here real quick. Thank you, Alana, for what you just offered. I have elderly dogs and I thought they were going to stay asleep through everything. So I just wanted to say that so everybody could know that is the only reason my screen went dark. They just needed to leave out of the house. So, and I don't have help tonight. So apologies. Isaiah, do you want to respond to yeah?
Yeah, so part of what I'm sort of curious about is you each have worked on different Tarell McCraney projects for both the stage and the screen. And part of what we were talking about when we were building the book is that what's sort of remarkable about the plays is that each of them have their own form and style, right? So there are certain devices that he uses across the work, but each one is its own sort of contained world. And I'm just curious to know, like, how do you approach that, right? Like, I mean, do you have to have a certain set of tools in your kit as an actor, as a director that you bring to his work? Are those tools, those skills different than what you bring to other work? Is there a different approach for the stage work versus the screen work? All of those questions.
Somebody might say there's a difference, but you know what? In the screen work, in playing Dr. Wood's Trap, Tarell had an entire scene where Dr. Wood's Trap had these young people doing Romeo and Juliet and breaking it down and going, and the way he constructed a scene, it was just like it had come from a play. She was switching on dimes, and the teacher was, and I was very grateful that I'd been ahead of passes, because people don't write like that for television. They just don't. And had I not had the experience of working in head of passes, I don't know that I would have grasped that the way that I did.
Yeah, I have not worked with Tarell on TV or film, although I think we have something in our future, which I'm very excited about. But I remember when I watched David Makes Man, I thought, oh, this is doing the same thing we have done in the plays, which is it's utterly grounded and believable and detailed and heartfelt. And there is a theatrical element. There is poetry in this world. So, what I admire, one of the things I admire so much about Tarell is that he uses what tools are available to best convey the meaning and doesn't limit himself by saying first, these are the things I use in my writing. And so it creates very surprising universes where you might have a straight ahead scene that segues into a dream, that segues into someone humming, that segues into a long shot of something you don't know what it is. But so the palette he's working with has such range and richness in the colors he chooses that it can kind of go anywhere. And it's true when I think of, the work I've done with him, the brother-sister plays versus Wig Out versus Head of Passes versus Ms. Black for President. There are absolute similarities, and they are all absolutely different. Even within the brother-sister plays, those three plays are radically different as far as style and approach. And one of the things I would say about working on any of his work is this is hard to do, but rather than come at it with, I need to understand how we get from A to B to C. I have to motivate it as a director or an actor to trust the score, to trust the map, and to just do it first. And trust that its reason, its motivation, its psychology, its truth will reveal itself to you because it's there. But our little human brains that like to, pathologize and psychologize can't understand it at first. But when we trust it, it reveals its logic to us.
Thank you for that. Can we talk a little bit about Tina? What you're making me think of is what surprisingly to me, but it's asked a lot on the college level. Students don't know what to do with the stage directions that they're speaking, the stage directions. And so I just wanted to know if you guys could speak to that for any students who are on here, being introduced to Tarell's work in college, what to do with those stage directions.
Okay, so Miss Felicia, are you going to take it?
Nope.
No, okay, please offer yours. Please, after,
No.
please. I actually just want to say this to your college students so everybody feels good about it. Tarell, I think he was doing a workshop of In the Red or a reading at Princeton. And he graciously had them call Chicago and invite me to come and read. And I was so thankful. So I read the script. I call my friend. I called Tarell. I said, Tarell, I'm supposed to say the stage directions? And he was like, yeah. I hung up the phone. Let me tell you something. I didn't get it, but I trust the work. I was like, well, he's a genius. I know you know what he's doing. So I don't know, but I'm going to just do it. And so over time, what I feel like I realized is that the beauty of theater is that it is in service of the audience, right? It's in service of the collective we. So every time you say, Oya smiles, I'm reminding you, boo, this is for you. Are you still with me? Let's go. Okay. This is the next part of the story. You still here? Can you believe she did that? Let's go. So that's how I
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that we might tend to think of the stage directions, the spoken ones, which, by the way, aren't in every play. They're not in Head of Passes. But we tend to think of them initially, maybe people might think they are asides, like I'm doing this, and then I kind of make a comment, which can serve as a distancing device. But I think Tarell's whole genius with them is that they are connectors. It's exactly what Alana said. When you speak them, they can't be asides. They have to be another significant way of reaching out to an audience. Oftentimes, I found helpful for actors to speak to a specific audience member, not generalize it like to the whole audience, but to like Zoom. And because ultimately what they're doing is they're creating an underbelly of meaning that says, this event is not a story we are living that you are looking at. This event is a live event that is about community, and it's about what happens when people gather in a room to tell and listen to and join in story together. And that, again, the tightrope actors have to walk is that they have to be able to be fully invested in the moment and the truth and the character and the intention. And at the same time, never forget that they're storytellers. And they have to be able to hold those two things in their beings at the same time.
Thank you, guys. Oh, did you
Miss
want to
Felicia?
Yes, yes. Miss Felicia.
What they said. What they said.
You know what? I'll follow it up too. Is there work, Miss Rashad, that you think you could recommend actors and directors to begin with, or any of the panelists, if you're just first coming to his work? Is there work that you think might be a little more instructive or easier to access in different types of ways?
Start with the one I started with. That's the one I started with. Start with the one Alana started with. That's the one she started with. Start with the one Tina started with. That's the one she started with. Anywhere you begin is a good beginning, is what I'm saying.
I'm curious to hear.
I'd say maybe, well, no, I'll shut up.
No, go ahead, please, Tina.
No.
I'm sort of curious to hear you all talk about building the world of Head of Passes. That play is, you talked earlier, Tina, about that third act, that aria at the end, and I'm just sort of curious to know how you were able to, you talked about the switches, which go from, sort of moment to moment, but stylistically, that play has big switches, right? And I'm just curious to hear like how you built the world, how you were able to create a sense of ensemble, and then the ensemble fades away and Sheila's left there and it's her wrestling with the gods and the audience. And so I'm just curious to hear a little bit more about that process.
I'll let Felicia talk first, or Alana, but I just want to say this. When you say the words Head of Passes, and I'm looking at these two women's faces on the screen, all I want to do is do Head of Passes. Like, it's that's all I'm putting out into the universe, that I don't actually even feel done with that play. Okay. Do you guys want to start on that question?
Now I want to start with the question. I want to thank you for what you just said and know that I'm in. I'm all in. Yeah.
That's huge, Miss Felicia. That is huge. That is fantastic. And that is huge, because that play right there is like acting Olympics, and Miss Felicia does it.
And you
like
know what?
flawless.
And you know what else I just want to say, and I know we might talk about this later, but I want to say, talk about a play that speaks to our moment. You know, not in a direct way, but I keep thinking, Tarell and I were talking about that the other day, how, you know, things in that play, that it's based on the book of Job, which is where we started with that play. And you know, I came to Tarell with the idea, and my only idea was, let's do Job with a woman. And that was kind of all I had. And he came back basically with the play. And we were talking the other day about how what seemed at first so kind of biblical and of metaphor in terms of what Sheila goes through, the losses, the traumas, is what people are actually really experiencing in so many ways in our lives. Like now, it is a story of faith and survival in times that seem unbearable. So there's also, I think, reason for that play to exist ever more so. But anyway, do you guys want to talk about how we worked on it, or creating the world of it?
Well, you did that, Tina.
No, Felicia.
Yes, you did. Come on. Don't die. You did that. You, I mean, how many productions before we got to the public? And then after the public, we went to Mark Taper, and you continued to work and refine it. And
I will say that it did take us, you know, 5 productions. We did that play a lot. And, you know, on every show I do, we do a lot of work that is about ensemble building. I believe that all of Tarell's plays are, you know, what Peter Brook called one storyteller with many heads. Even when it seems it's the Sheila show, it's an ensemble. The fabric of the world, as Tarell expresses it, it's always a community, a family, a neighborhood. And so it was very important that, you know, we did some viewpoints, and we did some family background work, and we did all sorts of things that were about, like you say, every time you go to one of his plays, you have to kind of start to build and understand and imagine the universe anew. So what that rain was in the room behind the main room, you know, what it meant, what people felt like coming through it, these are all things that are not, you can't draw on your everyday experience. You have to invent the universe from scratch collectively. And I feel like we did that. Also, I'll just say, you know, Tarell is a gatherer of souls. You know, he has created an artistic family in the world. These 2 women I'm with now, and many others, you know, Kyle and many others that I've worked with so many times now, because we're all kind of some weird artistic family orbiting Tarell and his work, really helped, because there was a sense of family to begin with, ways in which we were all connected. And I think those bonds were really important on that play. I'm not really answering the question. Alana, I don't know. You go.
Okay, this is what I want to say. It is true that we did a workshop of Head of Passes. We literally read the Bible, literally discussed it, and never spoke a dialogue of text. And Tarell literally came back with a play. That in itself, I remember when we did read the play, I was like, you got all of that out of us sitting around and talking for a week? So seriously, that literally happened. Now, I will say that Tina it just seems like Tarell and Tina, it's divine orchestration that they are paired to work together. So to also understand how these theatrical experiences, you know, are experienced by the audience, you have to understand the way that Tina works. Tina does not just show up and say, hey, okay, we're gonna read the play. Tina will research and live with a play for months before we get there. Tina will probably have about 500 images. She will have a playlist of about 200 songs. I'm laughing, like you're laughing. I'm so serious. Because when you walk in to your rehearsal room, there will be all of these images of research. There, she's gonna understand what the world, you know, how she's thinking it sounds, and she comes to the rehearsal with an entire buffet of the world. What she then does with the artists in the room is she says, "This is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm thinking about the world." And then she extends that out to us. And then we all say, she's very, very, very collaborative. And in the book, we explore how collaborative Tarell is. So it's important to understand the extension of how, when somebody is willing to collaborate, how far that can extend. And what you have to appreciate about both of these highly skilled artists, Tarell and Tina, is that though they have a permissiveness about them in terms of saying yes and the extension of collaboration, they also have a very they also have a specificity to them. So when we're too far left, we're too far left. When we're too far right, we're too far. Tina likes to say yes but what I love about Tina and Tarell is that they are very, very, very specific. So it's almost like we create the spirit, we create the soul of the environment, and there is so much that can exist in there. But we're all clear when this is not in the sphere. We're not in the sphere right now.
you know, thank you, Alana, for describing that so beautifully. That's very nice. I think of it, there was a director who I heard speak when I was very young, a man named Slobodin Unkovsky, who was at the ART in Boston. And he said, when he lives with a play, he feels like he gets a virus or a fever and he's possessed by it. And when he goes to the first rehearsal, this is such a bad metaphor to be using right now, I'm just realizing, in terms of coronavirus. Oh my God, this is horrible, but I will continue. That when he goes into a rehearsal room, his object on the first day is to start spreading the germs, the disease, if you will, the passion. And that's how I think of it, is like, yeah, I can come in with all this stuff, but the most important thing I have to do is to offer or invite everyone in the room to find their own entry point and to own it, because ultimately they're the ones. It goes from playwright to director to actors to audience. And these artists, these actors, to me, the most important part of the process is their empowerment and ownership of the material and personalization of it. So, and I do joke about how I have two artistic personalities. One is me, Tina, and the other is my alter ego named Thelma. And Thelma appears in tech and previews, and it's and Thelma is the one who says to Alana, like, stage left. So for all the openness, I am not beyond like louder, faster. So Thelma kicks in at some point too.
Uh-oh. I wanted to jump in really quickly. Thank you all for that. Head of passes, Oscar Eustace said he's ready when you guys are. So that is in the chat. So I wanted to make sure and tell you all that so we can hold him to it. At the public, he said he's ready to go.
I'll revive it as public as soon as you say we can.
Did you see that, Isaiah? Yeah, I wanted to make sure and get that message to you all.
Oh my God, Felicia, seriously, Oscar actually wrote in the chat.
Yeah, I'll revive it. At the public, as soon as you say, Oscar said, I'll revive it at the public as soon as you say we can.
And you know what, Oscar, as soon as we say we can, you mean as soon as we can do theater again. But I will say we kept going, like Oscar. I just want to say to Oscar, hi Oscar, that we made great strides at the public, and then it also really went somewhere else at the taper. And so I feel like we're right on that precipice of the it version. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to, that's exciting. I wanted to jump in and say something that I said earlier. Yesterday we had a panel on mental health, Moonlight and McCraney, and on Tuesday we talked about teaching the book. And there was a comment that I made about Tarell Alvin McCraney because someone asked why Tarell, basically, for the co-editors. And my response was that for me, in the popular public, Tarell Alvin McCraney seems like he's on the trajectory of August Wilson and William Shakespeare, in the sense that, for me, a lot of playwrights that get into the popular public have maybe 2 or 3 really good plays, but it seems like almost every single one of Tarell's plays is excellent, excellent. And so in this moment, I want to pull race in. In this moment, in COVID-19, with the Black Lives Matter iterations, Black students are calling for representation, like Alana said, for folks to be in the room. And the challenge is that we're at a hiring freeze because of COVID-19. And so what we are getting, when I say we, I'm talking about the Black Acting Method Studio, we're getting a lot of questions about race and how do white directors, how do they best serve their kids? How do they work with the Black students? And how can the Black actors come into the room and work with the white directors, in the sense that there's a hiring freeze, and right now representation for a couple of more months is going to be a little challenging. So you guys are in that. And I just wanted to know if you could talk to the educators in the room and the students in the room about how we might move forward.
I attended Howard University, and it was a very interesting time because it's referred to as the Mecca. Yes, as the Mecca of HBCUs. And during that time, instruction and work was Eurocentric. Now, I don't want to confuse what I'm saying here. I think that there's value in everything. I think it's a mistake to say, I can't learn that because it's not of my culture. I can't study that technique or that art form because it's not of my culture. But in answer to your question, I just want to say this. There were Caucasian instructors in the Department of Drama who were sensitive enough to understand these cultural differences, and in order to train these young people as actors, to get these young people to access their inner thoughts and inner realities, and to create from that space, as opposed to creating from an external space, those teachers, had to be willing to expand and grow a little bit. And they were. I think we can all grow, all of us. Yeah. Yeah.
So something that I want to talk about that was in what Ms. Rashad said about not saying no to specific oh, okay. Did my video go off?
No, we see you.
Oh, okay. All right. The idea of not saying no, I'm not going to do that work. I'm not going to learn about that because that it doesn't reflect me. I think that's a very, very valuable statement because I believe that it's true. And I also want to add to it is it's actually something that I thought about. I thought about as a student, I want white students to have to do August Wilson. And for a lot of Black people, that's like are you crazy? You should never. Why not? And for me, it felt like, well, I have to do things that weren't written for me all the time. And I have to be judged on that, even though that's not my first culture. That's not my first cultural understanding. My ability as an actor is being judged on something I might not even relate to. And yet you don't have to experience that. And not only do I want you to have that experience, but I want you, my brother and sister in these United States, to show me that you see the humanity and respect my existence by trying to inhabit me honestly. You cannot play anybody if you don't respect them. You cannot defend anybody's life as you embody them if you don't invest in what it is like to be them. So for me, I felt like progress in America for me would be profoundly demonstrated if you really try to be me on the stage. Like I feel like that would like really do something for me in a real way, that if there was effort applied there, then it would make me believe that some things in our culture that really look impossible are kind of possible.
Yeah, I don't know. This is making me very emotional because it ties into so much that's going on right now, and the We See You White America document, and of course I am a white director, often in Tarell's plays with full Black casts, and you know, I never questioned my ability to direct the plays when he first asked me. But I also knew, I knew what was universal. I knew what I could relate to. And I also knew that I would be in a slightly different position as a director, that I couldn't come in and teach people about, I had to listen and learn. And I am so profoundly grateful for that opportunity. I feel like by being allowed into these worlds, I have just expanded tenfold. And I feel like I am so much more well equipped in this moment as demands are voiced, as pain is expressed, to listen. And but it requires, I guess, a certain humility and, like Alana is saying, just a desire. And it's also, I love what Felicia was saying about compassion, because that's how I think Tarell is like Chekhov, like the good doctor. You know, it's like this way in which every character of every facet, no matter what it seems like, is approached with compassion and love. There's so much love in his work. And I don't know, and I'm going to be really candid on here and say it has crossed my mind in these last several months of like, is is now a moment where I shouldn't be directing Tarell's work, or where he or others will not be comfortable with that. I don't know.
I know. You should never not be directing his work.
Yes, I understand. And
I mean what I'm saying, Tina. I mean what I'm saying.
well,
Yeah, but
I hear you, and I understand, and I appreciate what Alana you said earlier, because Martha Levy, a past artistic director of Steppenwolf, always commented on how she felt like Tarell and I were such kindred spirits, although our lives could not look more different. And I do feel that, and so I think that's important to remember too. It's a yes and. Yes, and there are differences, there are different cultures, there are different backstories we come to this with. Yes, and there are also bonds and connections and spiritual understandings that are also there.
And that make it work, Tina.
That
make it work. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this as an actor and as a director. All African American actors do not perform August Wilson well. They do not. Just like all British actors do not perform Shakespeare well.
Mm-hmm.
They do not. So there comes with all of the truth that is spoken here, and everything is said is true. The thing about art is that there is a level of transcendence. And when we begin to work on that level, there's a real magic that happens. And you work on that level. I can't imagine anyone giving me more than you did. I can't imagine it. I mean, I felt it from the first day of the reading. And you may remember that I came into the rehearsals when we began actually rehearsing for the stage production, saying, mold me, shape me. I have never said that to a director before. Never. And I've worked with directors that I love and respect. But you are the one I said, shape me, mold me to, because it's another level. And I think that has a lot to do with Tarell's work, that has a lot to do with that space that he creates from, that inner space of silence and truth, where there are no barriers. That's not there. That's why I call him espíritu, because he creates from that level. So
thank you. This is like, I'm going to have to just pay you all for some major therapy you've given me tonight. So thank you. But I will say that your question about, white directors or teachers, that, oh God, I just lost my train of thought. I don't even know what I was going to say. That, to I guess both be aware of cultural differences, but not afraid of being able to share that and enter it somehow.
So someone in the comments asked me to elaborate a little bit more, and I believe it was from Dr. Eunice. So I hope I'm getting your name right. But it says, how do you hold that idea, white actors playing Black roles, in tension with the history of Blackface? Do you mean as an in-class exercise to develop empathy, or for public performance? So I would say predominantly as an in-class exercise, but I have seen it in public performance. And I saw a American, I'm gonna mess up the theater because I always mess up. Is it American Theater Company or anyhow? And the point is, in Chicago, they did a production of Top Dog, Underdog, and then oh my God. Anyhow, the other play, oh my God, we just did it at Steppenwolf, guys. I'm sorry, long day. Okay, the point is this. Say, Tina.
What play? What are you saying? By
They
who?
just
They said True
this
West.
is a True West. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. It was a joint production of True West and Top Dog Underdog. They did 4 productions. You had a white cast and a black cast performing both productions, and they were alternate. I was so excited about this. It caused a lot of controversy in the community, but me, I was excited about it because it was the first time that I felt like it's giving me the opportunity to see if somebody who is not Black going to get on stage and communicate to its audiences that I can see myself in a Black person. I actually feel like this is part of the problem of racism in America. People, for whatever reason, disconnecting themselves from Black. Like that's a different thing. That's not what I understand to be human. And which sounds terrible to say, but I think all of our problems stem from that root. So I wanted to see people sincerely try to inhabit a Black experience. And I could tell that for one actor, it was extremely difficult. And I could tell that for another actor, he was in. And that blessed me because he gave himself to that experience. I'm bringing this up because I also saw a production of an Intozaki Shange play in Chicago where she had written these characters that were from a lot of different places. I saw an Asian woman on stage speak Jamaican patois, and I was like, sis, work. I think that in 2020, because representation matters, when there is something that calls for, a woman that is from Malawi, find that woman from Malawi, let her work, let her eat, But as a student, put on multiple people. Something that is a huge deal for me as an actor that I don't think people talk about a lot is, for me, culture is everything. If I don't really understand the culture that produced this person that I'm supposed to inhabit, I really feel lost. Culture is everything, whether you're white, middle class, from the suburbs, or from the inner, it doesn't matter. Culture is everything. And if you can inhabit a person's culture, for me, it unlocks everything. So I want to be able to play, a 40-year-old mother from Cambodia or whatever. I'm an artist, so I want to put on everything. So as the exercise of like being a person, if that's what the craft of acting is, run the gamut while you in school, put them all on, and develop compassion, empathy, curiosity for all people. If we can approach the world with compassion, empathy, curiosity for all people, that's half the battle, right? That's really what it is, because we're battling against people who just have, it seems, no interest in understanding people that are not like them.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. Woo, it's a lot I want to say, and I see the time is winding down.
I know. I feel like we just tipped into an entire conversation that could be the next hour. This is very.
Yes. What I think what I wanted to offer, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Isaiah to wrap us to no, we got he's like, nah. What I wanted to offer, and please feel free to speak a little bit more, is that Alana, I allow my white students to play Rose, because of everything that you just said. How I feel is that it's a trajectory. And I think we have to also, what we're battling right now is equitability. So what's, right? So what's happening is that all of the white people get to do everything, and then Black folks are called in to do August Wilson, maybe. And so I think what is such a high imbalance, once we start getting that imbalance and that representation to come together, I do believe that what you're talking about is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because we want to do all of these characters. I want to be in a streetcar named Desire, right? There are all of these characters that we want to play, and it's what we're really talking about, I feel like, is equitability, is leveling that playing field so that I can go in and direct a streetcar named Desire on Broadway. And I can also direct, what's another one I want to direct? Oh, goodness. You know what I mean? So I can just go in and direct these things. And once we get there, where we're really resting upon people's talents and what they're bringing to the table and acknowledging that, because we are, as you guys say and know, we are all humans. We are all connected. That is what Tarell's work makes us do. And the question we had, the last question was actually, how is Tarell's work instructive for the current times? And I feel like we're in that moment right now. And so that was the last question. So if any one of you want to speak on that, because I feel like you said it, and but I'd love to hear some more things. He is a playwright to actually turn to right now and open that book, open the plays, open the book. And somebody asked really quickly, where are Tarell Alvin McCraney's plays? They're on Amazon, y'all. They're for sale where all the plays are. Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, right? Go to Amazon. All of his plays are there. And, but anything extra about that, how Tarell Alvin McCraney speaks to this current moment and why we should be producing his plays, watching David Makes Man, right? What's the movie he had, Isaiah? The name of the
High Flying Bird.
High Flying Bird. Why we should turn, Miss Black, right? Why we should turn to Tarell in these times. Any final thoughts?
Can I just say really quickly, just on the conversation we were just having, one of the things that's sort of interesting to me about Tarell's work are the white characters. So a character like Oli Roon in the brother-sister plays, or a character like the Doctor in Head of Passes. And what's sort of fascinating about the ways that he crafts those characters is that they live and exist within these Black worlds. They are not outsiders though, right? Oli Roon spanks Alegba just like Aunt Alegwa. And I feel like that there's something sort of interesting. There's something pedagogically important about that, right? Where you have these white characters who exist inside of these worlds, and these are definitively Black worlds, and those white characters do not exist on the outside. They actually understand the logic, the language, the feeling of the worlds.
Yes, they are part of the family. And there's also a very similar moment, though, in Red and Brown and Head of Passes, where the white character says something. It's like my favorite moment in both plays. And the whole room just stops quietly. And they all kind of look at him like, did that really come out of your mouth? And he's like, what? I'm Black, kind of,
Black people don't like the rain.
Yeah. I think that we have touched on a lot of why Tarell Alvin McCraney now, and the words that come to mind are community and compassion. The how Ur stories of our time and of the Bible and of the Yoruban deities belong to all across cultures and race and religions and time periods, that they still speak to what is most universal. I do want to say also, you can't read Ms. Black for President yet, but that is a play for our time, because that's really about the importance of owning our role in participating in U.S. politics, specifically an election.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would say that Tarell's work for me always feel like it always feels like it is now. It's very present, which is unique because for a time it seemed like a lot of young playwrights were writing plays about a historical event. And I kind of felt like we don't really have nobody talking about now, like what's happening right now. And here comes Tarell Alvin McCraney.
Yes, the distant present.
Yes. And let's just say, as I think you've all mentioned, the lives and the stories that he is sharing with us are not often put at the forefront. I mean, he does in fact do what he said to me when I first met him, which is give voice to the voiceless, and in very dimensional, compelling ways.
Yes.
Yes, we are going to let you all go. This has been so amazing. Attendees, thank you so much for what you're saying in the chat. You guys have answered so many questions. I mean, this is just a wonderful moment, and to be here in person in real time is just an honor. And attendees, this is really happening. It wasn't pre-recorded or anything. We are right here, right now. I just wanted to really one more time say thank you to the Helen Weinberger Center for Drama and Playwriting at the University of Cincinnati for supporting this event, along with the Black Acting Method Studio. Tarell Alvin McCraney is on sale right now, 30% off with the code McCraney. Tina Landau and Alana Arenas, y'all, they got words in the back of the book where they talk about a whole bunch of stuff, directing and acting. And I'll end with Miss Phylicia Rashad's quote, endorsement of the book. Tarell Alvin McCraney is one of the most prolific playwrights of our time. The critical assessments offered here by esteemed artists and academics affirm his genius, Miss Felicia Rashad. And this panel also affirms why Tarell Alvin McCraney's work is so important. You guys have been awesome. Nice to meet you. Thank you again. Everybody have a wonderful night.
Thank you all.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
I love you, Felicia and Alana.
I love you, Tina and Alana.
And I love you guys too. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you.
Alana, kiss the children for me, please.
Everybody be safe. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.